My name is Glenn. I am 48 years old. I am in good shape for my age, and I have a stable job as an accountant. I know that accountants are known for being boring. I must admit that I am not the most adventurous person. I don't climb mountains, hunt sharks, or jump out of airplanes, but I also don't go out to bars every night with my friends to pick up girls, and I don't play golf on the weekends, leaving my loving wife home alone. Overall, I'm a good, reliable husband who has been faithful to his beautiful wife for almost 25 years. My wife is Amy. She's 47 and in great shape because she works out twice a week. I look my age, but Amy looks 30-something and could pass for a girl in her late 20s. One day we went to a restaurant, and the waitress asked us what we wanted to drink. We didn't correct her and decided to have a little fun. The waitress stared at us with wide eyes all evening, whispered to the other waiters, and pointed at us. She almost threw our bill at us and said, "That's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen." We left her a good tip, and as we left the restaurant, we just smiled at her. And Amy showed her the big engagement ring on her finger. Of course, it wasn't our fault that she jumped to conclusions. When I think back on it, I realize we hadn't had that much fun in a long time. In fact, we hadn't had much fun at all. We were like all other couples. At first, the sex was hot and frequent, 2 or 3 times a day. Then it slowed down to once a day, then 3 times a week, then once a week, and finally settled at 2 or 3 times a month. And those 2 or 3 times were just like all the others, boring, uninteresting, and mostly unsatisfying. Amy had been working at the same company for almost 20 years. Over the years, she had several bosses, as it was a large international company with over 100 people in her department alone. I met most of her bosses over the years at various corporate events, and they seemed like nice people, mostly older, which made sense given their seniority and experience with the company. The last event we attended was a retirement party for her last boss, a lovely 65-year-old gentleman who was like a father to Amy. She cried like a baby when she said goodbye to him. All the way home, I could see how upset she was, so I tried to strike up a conversation by asking if she knew who her new boss would be, since she hadn't introduced me to anyone at the party as her new boss. She snapped at me, telling me to stop interrogating her. How could I be so insensitive at a time when she had just lost her father, who had been her rock? It was easy to believe that George had died, not just retired. I realized that something more than George's retirement was bothering her. I just let it go and we drove home in silence, afraid that I would get my head chopped off again. A couple of weeks went by, and Amy came home every night more irritated than the night before. Finally, I got tired of her bad mood and asked her what the hell was wrong. She burst into tears and told me that her new boss was a jerk. He was young, cocky, dumb as a brick, and the CEO's nephew. That was the only reason he got the job. She wasn't sure she could continue working there. What upset her most was that she had believed her boss would be an older man who would take her under his wing and treat her like a daughter, like all her previous bosses had. She didn't want some young kid who thought he could boss her around like his damn slave. I told her that I would support her in any way I could, and that she should try to stick it out a little longer. If he was the nephew of one of the company owners, he was probably next in line for a promotion and would be leaving soon. She agreed that it was a good plan, provided that I comforted and reassured her every night. We made a deal. Over the next few months, her attitude toward her job and her boss, Troy, seemed to change for the better. She seemed to have grown to like Troy much more than when she first met him. In fact, now every night she talked only about Troy, about how smart and funny he was, and so on and so forth. I was so tired of hearing how wonderful Troy was that I needed Amy's comfort and support myself. This went on for another couple of months, and Troy's praise became more and more enthusiastic and nauseating. I should have realized then that her praise for Troy surpassed any praise she had ever given me. I don't remember her ever telling anyone how smart or funny I was. I guess I was just her old, boring, loving, loyal husband who was always there when she needed him. So it shouldn't have been a big surprise when she came home from work on Friday evening, went straight to the bathroom, took a shower, and started dressing up in her sexiest outfits. Friday was our usual date night. We usually went to a nice restaurant and then to the movies. But she wasn't dressing up for a night at the movies. So I decided to ask her why she was getting so dressed up. "Troy and I are going on a date tonight. I don't know what time I'll be back, but don't wait up for me." "Wait, you and Troy are going on a date? Tonight is our night." I started arguing instead of telling her that there was no way she was going out with Troy tonight or ever again. It didn't even occur to me to tell her she couldn't go out with Troy. All I could do was complain that tonight was our night. "Are you deaf?" She raised her voice and repeated, "Yes, Troy and I are going on a date tonight. I don't know what time I'll be back, but don't wait up for me. Do you hear me?" "What makes you think I'd let you go on a date with that Troy tonight or any other time? You're my wife and you only go on dates with me. Do you hear me?" "Yes, you're my husband, but I'm not your property. You can't tell me what to do, who to meet, and who to go on dates with, so tonight I'm going on a date with Troy. Do you hear me?" If you believe that I'm just going to stand here and let you go on a date with your boss, who is so much younger than you that he could be your son, then you're out of your mind. I'm not going to let you make me a cuckold. I don't know what that is, but it sounds dirty. Besides, what are you going to do to stop me? Tie me up? Beat me up? Kill me? At that moment, the last idea seemed like a good one. I felt hatred and bile rising in my throat, and I just wanted to hit her, tie her up, and kill her. How could she so openly despise me and our marriage vows? What influence did that jerk Troy have on her? Okay, what does Troy have that I don't, that attracts you so much? A lot of money? A lot of power? You don't have to be so rude and vulgar. See, that's one of the differences between you and Troy. He always acts like a real gentleman and never uses such foul language. You talk like that all the time. I've always been a gentleman and treated you with the respect you deserve. Well, you'll just have to learn to live with it, because I'm going to do everything you want and say everything you want. Let's see how the evening goes. And if everything goes as I expect, I won't be home until tomorrow. I'll text you to let you know how the evening went and that I'm safe and taken care of." "What do you mean?" "You'll see how the evening goes, and if everything goes the way you expect, you won't come home. Well, we'll get to know each other a little better over dinner, and if it turns out that Troy is on the same intellectual level as me, then we'll move on to more serious and interesting things, if you know what I mean." "Oh, I have no doubt that you and Troy are on the same intellectual level," I said as sarcastically as possible. "Oh, thank you, dear. That's sweet of you." "Why do you think I'd agree to all this nonsense?" Jenny and Sharon work with me in the same department. We get together for coffee every day, and sometimes we go out for a drink after work. They told me that they've both been with Troy and told their husbands about it, just like I'm telling you, and their husbands are fine with it. I know Jenny and Sharon's husbands, and I can't believe that any of them know about this and are fine with it. So you're calling Jenny and Sharon liars? Yes. Maybe while you're gone, I'll call those two guys and they'll explain to me why I should agree to this whole thing with Troy. You know how they feel about it. I'm sure they can calm me down and make me see how wonderful it is and how it will help our marriage. Because right now, I don't understand anything. By the way, it will help our marriage. At least it helped their marriages by opening Jenny and Sharon's eyes to what was missing in their sex lives, and now they're doing things with their husbands that they never could have imagined before. So you see, it will improve our boring sex life. Well, thank you, Troy, marriage counselor. What would we do without you opening my wife's eyes to the many benefits? I'm experiencing sexual pleasures that were hidden from us. You'll see, it will be good for both of us. If you walk out that door tonight, you'll be handed divorce papers on Monday morning. What's more, as soon as the door closes behind you, I'm going to call Sid and ask him to prepare the papers tonight. I might even ask him to deliver them to you tonight while you're having dinner with Troy or at the hotel. Do you know where you'll be having sex with him tonight so my courier doesn't waste time looking for you? Maybe you'll write down your route for me before you leave. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow afternoon. Come on, Glenn. You know you won't divorce me. You love me too much to divorce me over one date with my boss. You'd be lost without me. Besides, it's just one date to sleep with Troy. I don't love him and I never will. I love you. I always have and always will. It's just sex. All in all, it doesn't matter. It's just one night out of the thousands we've spent together and the thousands we have yet to spend together. You can't divide me into one night after all the nights I've spent with you and all the nights we'll spend together in the future. You're the most selfish man I know. I left the room, took out Sid's business card, and put it next to the phone so she would see it when she came out. I also wrote down the names and phone numbers of Jenny and Sharon's husbands so she wouldn't miss them. She walked into the kitchen, wearing makeup and smelling like a cheap whore. Or maybe I should say, cheap whore, since she's too dumb to charge for it and just gives it away for free. To show how dumb she is, she even wrote down the name of the restaurant and hotel where she's going with Troy, just in case of an emergency. What a dumb bitch. She must have been sniffing glue all these years to become this stupid. She walked around the kitchen island and tried to kiss me on the cheek before leaving. I turned away and pushed her toward the door. I didn't even want to breathe the same air as her. She disgusted me so much that I can't even describe it. As soon as the door closed, I turned around and threw up in the sink. The woman I had loved for almost 25 years had betrayed me with a young guy who could have been the same age as our children if we had decided to have kids. At that moment, I was so glad we had made that decision years ago. We both knew that Amy wasn't cut out to be a mother and would never be a good one. To make matters worse, I had just realized, standing alone in the kitchen where we had cooked so many dinners together, that our 25th wedding anniversary was only 2 days away. We got married on Valentine's Day because I was a hopeless romantic. So much for romance. Hello, hopeless romantic. I immediately called Sid and told him everything. He said he was very sorry about what was happening and asked me to wait until things calmed down a bit. I told him I wanted to get rid of that dirty bitch as soon as possible. He assured me he would draw up the divorce papers and deliver them to her hotel today. He said the best time to deliver them would be when they were having wild sex. We could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. The courier would give her the papers, and his private investigator could take some photos and videos of their dirty deeds in case we needed them in court. I told him to do whatever he wanted with her. I just wanted her out of my life as soon as possible. Then I ran to the hardware store and bought new locks for all the doors in our house. My wife would never be able to bring that smelly, dirty, cheating woman into my house again. For the next few hours, I sat and stared at the TV screen, not understanding or caring about what I was watching. Finally, around midnight, I heard the phone ring and realized I had a message. It was Sid with updated information, including several photos and videos. The message said that the documents had been delivered and that the private investigator had obtained several photos and excellent video footage of the cheater and his mistress as they opened the door to their hotel room. I believe that the private investigator bribed the manager to give him a key card so they could simply open the door and go in. I thought that was probably illegal, but at that point, I didn't care. When they opened the door, all they saw was his bare ass kneeling on the edge of the bed. They took several photos at the entrance and a few more after they caught the happy couple. I think they scared them so much when they slammed the door that little Troy peed on the floor. My dear, sweet, beloved wife screamed at the top of her lungs and crawled back across the bed, hitting her head hard on the headboard. Then she jumped off the bed, ran to the bathroom, slammed the door, and locked it. The bailiff was supposed to hand her the papers in person, but that was impossible while she was locked in the bathroom. So he just took a chair and told her he could stand there much longer than she could stay in the bathroom. After about half an hour, she finally came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel that barely covered her butt. The bailiff verified her identity and said the documents had been delivered. I believe she burst into tears. expecting little Troy to come and comfort her. However, he was still standing there, trembling, completely motionless and in shock. That's when the fun really started, and I'm so glad the private investigator filmed and photographed it all. My dear, loving wife looked at little, frightened Troy and saw for the first time what she hadn't seen that evening: Troy's little dignity. My wife went crazy. "Is this what I ruined my marriage for? You're a pathetic piece of shit. You're a fucking asshole. I should kill you right here. No court would convict me if they saw this." It was actually hard to hear what Amy was screaming because the little bastard's cries of pain were so loud. Little Troy was squealing like a girl on a playground. The sight made me cringe with sympathy. But I have to admit that my sympathy lasted only a couple of seconds. Then she started beating him, knocking him to the ground. He curled up into a ball and started crying like a spoiled child. My investigator continued to record and made no attempt to intervene. He just let her beat little Troy, who was hitting him with a cruelty I had never seen in my sweet and gentle wife. Someone must have complained about the noise because the night manager and hotel security came and pulled them apart while my investigator continued to film everything on camera. They asked my investigator to leave and said they needed a copy of the recording so that the hotel would not be held liable and there would be no lawsuit. When I watched the video, I couldn't believe how much I liked it. I projected it onto a 65-inch screen in my living room so I wouldn't miss a thing. As I watched this fascinating film for the third time, I got a call from the police. It turned out that Amy had been arrested for assault, and I needed to go to the police station to bail her out. As far as I remember, people in her situation are only allowed one phone call. I'm sure she was furious when I hung up, cutting her off from her only link to the outside world. I guess that meant she'd have to spend the rest of the night in jail. I'm sure she was furious. The next day, around noon, I saw my sister Amy's car pull up to the house. She stormed into the house and banged on the door so hard that I thought she would knock it off its hinges. When I opened the door, she rushed inside, pushed me aside, and unleashed a torrent of abuse. She said I was the most despicable person on earth for abandoning her wonderful, innocent sister in her time of need. She said she had only come for Amy's things because she was going to live with her until Amy found a lawyer who would sue me for every penny I had. I wasn't quite sure what her lawsuit would be based on, but I guess I'd find out soon enough. Or at least Sid would. As Julie ran out of the house with a couple of suitcases, I called after her. "Didn't she tell you she got caught in bed with her boss at a hotel and was arrested for assaulting him? Maybe you should ask her about that? It's a good story, and it would make an even better movie. I'll send you a copy." She stopped and looked out the window at Amy, who was sitting there crying with her face in her hands. Then she turned and looked at me. She gave me the middle finger, threw her suitcases in the back seat, and got behind the wheel. By the time she got home, she had received a very interesting message with several photos and a great video. But the fun was just beginning. I decided it was time to call Jenny and Sharon's husbands to find out what they thought about what I had missed in my wife's conversation about her affair with her boss. I figured they might not be as enthusiastic about it as the girls had tried to convince my wife. I believed they would want to see the video of their wives having fun with my cheating boss. If their wives had also cheated on them with this little weirdo, I wondered if the girls had told them about their adventures in the world of debauchery. When I called Jenny's husband, Joe, he seemed to know nothing about Jenny's affair with Troy. If Jenny had even tried to sleep with her boss, which I had no doubt she hadn't told Joe. I asked him if he wanted to see the video of Troy cheating on my wife. He hesitated a little before agreeing to watch it, thinking I would get angry. I told him not to worry. He could make copies and give them to all his friends and colleagues. I didn't care because the video would end up on the internet anyway, and the whole world would see it. I sent him the video. Then I called Sharon's husband, Charlie, and we had almost the same conversation as with Joe. I sent him the video in a text message. I got the impression that perhaps none of them were happy about the news, but I felt they had a right to know. I realized that they weren't any more understanding than I was, because they didn't even know about it. At least my dear, loving, sweet wife explained everything I needed to know about how things were, and how it would improve our marriage by improving our sex life. Oh, something went wrong. It ended our marriage and our sex life, but now, looking back, I think that maybe it even improved my marriage by exposing my wife as a lying, cheating wife so that I could dump her dirty, useless ass and ultimately improve my sex life when I find another woman to have sex with who isn't a lying, cheating bitch, if there are any left in this rotten world. On Monday, Sid told me that Amy refused to sign the divorce papers because she doesn't want a divorce and wants to try to work things out. She claimed there was no cheating because there was no sexual intercourse. I guess we'll have to leave it up to the court to decide whether there was sexual intercourse. But I didn't care what decision they made, because the adultery occurred the moment she left the house to go on a date with another man while still married to me. She was determined to go to a hotel with another man to sleep with him. Adultery! I find it very amusing that I just called little Troy a man. I guess I got carried away trying to come up with the right definitions of sexual intercourse and adultery that a court would accept. There was nothing masculine about little Troy. Another funny thing, now that I had given Amy the divorce papers, sent the video to Joe and Charlie to expose their cheating wives, and sent the video to Amy's sister Julie so she would at least know the truth and not the lies I was sure Amy had been telling her, I needed to send the video to someone else. The CEO of the company where Amy worked. I was sure they would enjoy seeing how their employees behaved after work. Oh, and of course, I posted the video anonymously on the internet, but made sure that the names of the two main characters were clearly visible on the screen. I didn't want anyone to overlook this monster. If he suddenly appeared on the screen after someone lost sight of him, it could scare someone to death. The last thing I need right now is for someone to sue me if they find out who posted this video online for everyone to see and laugh at. But the fun wasn't over yet. On Thursday, someone from Amy's office called me and asked if I knew where she was, as she hadn't been to work all week. I told them to ask Troy if he knew where she was, as he was the last person to see her. At that point, almost the entire world. They said Troy hadn't come to work either, and that they believed he had been fired by the CEO, his uncle personally. What a shame. Such a promising guy like Troy, knocked down in the prime of his career. Is there no justice left in this world? On Friday, I received several angry calls from Jenny and Sharon, who called me the same names Julie had used last Saturday afternoon. Since all these girls seem to be in cahoots, I must be just like they say. Who am I to argue with such lovely ladies? They're not lying, are they? Sid called me on Tuesday of the following week and told me that the court had ordered Amy and me to go to marriage counseling. He said there was no way out of this situation, even though he knew it was a waste of time. He advised me to be polite and keep my mouth shut if I had nothing to say. Those were 10 damn quiet sessions because I couldn't think of a single nice thing to say to Amy or about her. The first session was the next day, Wednesday, at 7 in the evening. I showed up in my best suit. I was dressed to impress. I couldn't very well show up in a t-shirt that said, "My soon-to-be ex-wife is a whore." For a good time, call 555-2212. I decided to save it for Saturday when I went grocery shopping and for Sunday when I went to the park. I also wore it when I went bowling, to the movies, or anywhere else where it was appropriate to wear a t-shirt. I printed 20 of these t-shirts so I would always have one on hand and wouldn't have to wash it every day. You wouldn't believe the attention I get when I wear this t-shirt. Some women laugh, while others give me the dirtiest looks you can imagine and call me names just like other women do. Most men laugh and give me a thumbs up. I've even noticed that some of them dial the number on their cell phones or write it down on their palms. I wonder how many calls she's gotten since I started advertising her number to customers. Oh yeah, they don't even have to buy anything. She gives it to them for free. Wait, the fun isn't over yet. We went to 4 therapy sessions before the therapist told the court that there was no hope for reconciliation and that further sessions were pointless. I dressed up for each session and was polite to the therapist, completely ignoring Amy. I always spoke in a restrained and respectful manner, answering all of the therapist's questions, but not saying a word to Amy. After the last session, Amy asked if we could talk. I said, "No," and walked away. I heard her sobbing as I left without looking back. Amy finally signed the divorce papers. I was more than fair, giving her half of everything, including the proceeds from the sale of the house. After our last session with the psychologist, I never saw Amy again. Our lawyers took care of all the formalities, and we just went to their offices to sign all the necessary documents. My lawyer told me that Amy had been fired along with Jenny and Sharon for violating the company's policy prohibiting intimate relationships between employees, although they only had evidence against Troy and Amy. I believe that these women's husbands dragged them into the CEO's office and forced them to confess their misdeeds, then abandoned them and kicked them out of their homes. When will women learn? Real husbands, real men, don't tolerate their wives acting like pathetic cheaters. Joe, Charlie, and I sometimes get together to drink beer and chat. It seems that after Troy slept with one of them, he blackmailed them into bringing him others. He told them they would lose their jobs if they didn't tell all the women in the office what a stud he was. They also had to lie about how great Troy was in bed and what a wonderful lover he was so they wouldn't lose their jobs. Stupid bitches. I heard that Amy is recognized everywhere she goes. When she goes outside, which is rare, she has to wear a mask. She hasn't found another job and lives on welfare and the money she got from the divorce. Her video has been viewed over 1.5 million times on the internet. The comments people leave are sometimes funny. When I feel sad or depressed, I watch that video. It's so funny to see little Troy getting hit in the soft spots over and over again. I rewind that part over and over again. By the way, I heard that the hotel made Troy pay for cleaning the carpet because he peed on it. I guess Simple Jenny was the first domino to fall. Troy identified her as the most vulnerable almost immediately. Joe was often away on business, and Jenny was just a regular girl. She hardly wore any makeup and dressed very conservatively. Troy began his attacks on the first day after arriving, complimenting Jenny on her natural beauty. After a week of relentless flattery, he invited her to lunch, and over hamburgers and French fries, he convinced her to go to his apartment to spend the day playing fun games. The cheap bastard couldn't even afford to take his victim to a decent restaurant. The next day, she told Sharon what they had done, and what a wonderful lover he was. I'm not going to feed you fairy tales about how wonderful my life is now that I've gotten rid of that flighty bitch. Women aren't lining up to date me. I didn't marry a beautiful lawyer right after my divorce. I went on a couple of dates, but I didn't like them. Amy ruined my chances of ever having a romantic relationship with a woman. Now when I look at a woman, all I see is a potential liar and cheater who will eventually break my heart and trample all over it. I feel like all women are looking for a juicier piece of meat because they're never satisfied with what they have at home. I made a solemn promise to myself. I will never date married women. I don't want another man to go through what I went through. So I've learned to weed out the suspicious married women who approach me in bars in their little black dresses and invite me to have sex. I just ask them a direct question. Does your husband believe that you are here trying to pick up a man to sleep with? If they even pause for a couple of seconds or stumble over their answer, I just tell them, go home to your husband, you useless bitch. Tell him you love him and thank your lucky star that you have him and that he didn't catch you and kick you out of the house for cheating on him. You make me sick. Thanks, Amy, for ruining both of our lives until we die, you miserable bitch.